Hello and welcome to another episode of Genuine Healing Down Under with your hosts, me, Marvin Schneider.
And me, Jen Ward. Hi, everybody. Hi, Marvin.
Hi, Jen. Good to see you again. It's been a while since we've done one of these videos where it's just you and me in front of the camera and we're talking about some spiritual concept. That has been the general premise of the whole Genuine Healing Down Under series on our YouTube channel and the Genuine Healing website, but we're glad to be doing it again. There's a couple of things that we're going to be doing today. One, we're just going to give you a brief update as to what's been going on in the background for those that kind of follow us and have any interest in that. And the other thing, the primary reason why we're recording this is you just had a really interesting private session and we wanted to showcase that, but we'll do that in a second. Jen, you've been recently doing a whole series of to camera pieces, shorter pieces, 5, 10, 15 minutes, showcasing some of the healing sessions that you've done. Do you want to just give people a bit of an update as to what's going on with that?
Well, it's just a way to stay relevant. Um, there's so many people are getting inundated with so much platitudes in every way that we write, we create a video, we share tapping, and it's just another way to try to bring the individuals into what we're doing here at an incredible level.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. I think you realized some time ago that it's really important that the audience, those that watch our content, have a personal connection with you because that's part of the whole healing genre. And so those videos are an opportunity for you to have a personal message with the audience.
Yes, because if you think about it, we've been focusing on assisting 8 billion people, and we do that in all moments in energy. And when people connect with the videos, either these or the ones I do or the ones you do, they're actually physically taking that energetic connection and bringing it down to their lives to make it more conducive for them to experience the healing and truth of what we're conveying.
Mm. And of course, we've been doing a whole suite of group SFT tapping events. They're pretty profound. They're longer. They're typically about 1.5 hours. There's typically 80, 90, 100 taps, SFT taps in there. They're very targeted, but it's part of our core mission to ignite universal empowerment, uplift 8 billion people on the planet.
Absolutely. So what we do in energy is we strip off the illusion and the bullshit. As if imagine imagine people were living in a smoky, cloudy room and someone opened a window and cleared out that cloud. That's basically what we're doing for the whole world in in doing these tabs. We're taking the confusion and the junk and just flushing it out.
Mm. Some of the more recent SFT tapping events have been quite directed and quite pointedly focused on addressing in energy individuals and the energies behind those individuals, autocrats, dictators, power mongers, those that are actively working against the empowerment of 8 billion people on the planet. Those have been quite intense sessions. We're taking them on directly.
So, yes, and here's the thing. In the past, myself and I'm sure other individuals did not want to address these issues because there's spiritual law that you don't encroach on another person's state of consciousness. That's all well and good, but what happens when there's these narcissists, bullies, power mongers, and evildoers encroaching on so many other people's um, freedom? So, us being in a position of seeing that in energy are able to step in as an advocate for truth and thwart those narcissists from taking from the unaware.
Mm. If you don't know what we're talking about, please do yourself a favor, jump on to either the Genuine Healing website or the Genuine Healing YouTube channel and find some of our group SFT tapping events. There's quite the catalog of them, and we are going to keep doing them every week or so. It's such profound work that is being done to assist 8 billion people on the planet bring higher consciousness to the mainstream. And if you want to participate with us in real time on the Zoom calls, just jump onto the Genuine Healing website, click onto the contact page, send us a message with your email address asking us to add you to the invite list for these events.
Absolutely. There may be an initial resistance to that. There may be a gut feeling like, ooh, I want to participate. This is why I'm here. And then the ego clicks in and says, ooh, I'm going to stay away from that. It's too scary. Try to work through the ego's resistance, and you will be surprised at your own growth from doing that.
Mm. And of course, you continue to do private sessions. And from time to time, the client, in fact, quite often, the client allows us to package those sessions up and make those available to the public so that other people can benefit from the profound healing work that's going on in these private sessions. And we're building quite the catalog of private sessions. By and large, we're making those available on the Genuine Healing website. And so if you want to participate, if you want to watch these private sessions, jump onto the Genuine Healing website. It is part of our premium content suite. There's quite the catalog. It's very affordable. And the viewing experience on the website is way better than on YouTube anyway. It's ad-free. So it's very affordable. Access the premium content on the website. There's hundreds and hundreds of private sessions there. Now, one of the primary reason that we're recording this episode of Genuine Healing Down Under is that you've just finished a private session with a client and it was quite profound. And because of the profound nature of that session, we are making it available even on YouTube for free. Now, the title of that session is Being Addicted to the Search. Look, nothing that we say here is a substitute for actually watching the session. You really need to engage with the session. But the reason why we're recording this video is to alert you to that so that you can then avail yourself of that session. But Jen, this particular client, in the beginning, it became very clear that the purpose of the session was that she was feeling spiritually lost. And so very quickly, the conversation came into the idea of being a searcher. And you basically gave the client, in the first 5 minutes, some fundamental truths about the nature of spirituality.
Absolutely. Um, and what was interesting about the session, without giving it away right away, is that the whole session, someone comes to me because they have this discomfort in themselves, unworthiness or whatever. She was very spiritually astute and has been on a lot of our private tapping sessions. Yet she was still floundering. And so when you watch one of these sessions, you can literally watch the layers being pulled away to reveal the core issues that are preventing her from being empowered.
So, but it became very clear right up front that even she was a spiritual seeker, she was a prana healer. She had studied and practiced prana healing as a modality for at least 3 years, I think she mentioned. And yet, despite all of that, she was going from one spiritual teacher to another, to another, to another, and she was really caught. She didn't have spiritual clarity, and she was looking for something, but she wasn't being able to find it. And you were able to help her navigate through that really quickly.
Yeah. So what's interesting is people who are actually very aware she was really effective as a healer still feel lost and misdirected. And and everything, it all boils down to looking outside of yourself for the answers when people need to be redirected inwardly. Just like Jesus, that was Jesus's original message. Look within, right? And that got distorted. So it takes a lot of effort to teach people, literally teach them how to remove all the programming and conditioning of looking for a savior out here, looking to be redeemed, and just turn it all inward. And that's what I was teaching her with the SFT tapping and the session itself.
Yeah. And even quite early in the session, so within the first 10 minutes, you were basically laying down some fundamental truths. And I know that you said then, I can see that, this isn't enough for you. You need more. And basically what she was saying is she was understanding what you were saying, but she was lost. She said something like, okay, but what do I do now? What do
Mm-hmm.
I do? And so this feeling of just floundering and being lost, even though she's a very spiritually aware person, was quite revealing.
Yeah, and then so core issues came revealed where in past lifetimes she was in a position of empowerment and she got threatened. I saw a lot of her lifetimes where she was threatened, tortured, or killed for her truth. So in this lifetime, she was terrified of being empowered because it meant pain and destruction. And in her energy literally got blown into pieces from power factions that didn't want her to be empowered. And in energy, through the SFT tapping sessions that she had already attended, and in this session, I literally grabbed all her pieces that had been dispersed all over the universe and recollected them back into a cohesive cell so she could heal.
There is an aspect of that "what do I do now" question that I wanted to address, and that is, my sense is that a lot of spiritual seekers, they kind of know bits and pieces. They've got a few things and they've got a bunch of modalities, and they're checking this out, checking that out, and can't kind of find and kind of coalesce onto something. So she was doing meditation, she was doing yoga, she was doing all sorts of spiritual practices, but it didn't seem to satisfy her. And she was saying, what do I do now? But one of the things that you really, re-engage with her on was the idea of SFT tapping. That is
Mm-hmm.
a simple thing that you can do, that you don't have to mentalize it. It's not a mental agony. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because at one level, it's like, okay, Jen, SFT tapping, isn't there anything else that you've got here? But I want to talk a little bit about the real power of SFT tapping, um, because a lot of people are just, they're diffusing their energy, being busy, doing spiritual things, and they're just kind of still lost. But the simple act of SFT tapping is something that you can do very tangibly. You don't have to think about it too much, but it is actually doing some profound, spiritual and connecting yourself spiritually to source. That's one thing. And then through the healing process.
Yes, and here's the thing. I am able, I'm able to assist people in energy. We've established that. So what the SFT tapping, doing it in itself, if you don't believe that you have that power to do that, it's taken the initiative to connect with me in energy. I've written the taps, I've written this protocol. I know where you are in energy. As soon as someone connects with me and needs help, I see where they are in energy and I see how to help them be empowered. Now, them doing the discipline of doing the SFT tapping tells them, tells me in energy that they're worth helping because they're not going to waste my energy. I could just piss away all my abilities helping people who don't want to be helped. But when people do the SFT tapping, it's it's connecting directly with me and energy, so I can do everything I can for them to pull them into their empowerment.
Mm. There's two other aspects of this private session that I wanted to focus on. And by the way, can I just say it again? I've said it already, but can I just say it again? This conversation will not do justice to the private session. So 100% go and look at the entire private session. It's quite profound. In one aspect, I think it's around the 32-minute mark, thereabouts, you were talking about the profound work that you do and the SFT tapping, and you posed the question, and by the way, and in all of that, people are still seeking. They're going here, they're going there, they're diffusing their energy. And you pose the question, why is the work that I'm doing and why is the SFT tapping not enough? Why do people still feel compelled to look elsewhere when it's right in front of the answer is right in front of you in plain sight? You had one line of response. I've got another one that I'd like to talk about, but you want to talk about yours first.
Well, yeah, that it's just too simple. It's like they're all geared up for this fight, and they've been fighting for lifetimes, and they go through a whole lifetime just to get a little ounce, just a little piece of truth. And here we are, I'm just literally vomiting truth on humanity right now. I'm just giving out all the truth that anybody could ever want. But it's too simple. And your take on that is?
My take on it is that people are looking for the full polished package. They as a spiritual teacher and a guide, as misdirected as it is to need to want to sit at the foot of a spiritual guide, because as you say, the true answer lies within. So why would you put your feet as a spiritual student at the feet of a guru? But for one reason or another, through Eastern spirituality, the idea of having to sit at the foot of a guru is heavily ingrained. So my sense is a lot of people think that what they need is the fully polished Zen-like siddha guru sitting on a mountain in an ashram, and and for some reason or another, that is what they need to be a student of. And then they see us, you and me, and we are, as much as we're doing probably the most profound or some of the most profound work on the planet, where we are nevertheless flawed, fallible human beings in the physical body. And I think a lot of people, they can't compute that. So they see the work that you're doing and they go, oh my God, but then they go, no, that can't be all, because, she's a flawed human being. A, she's a woman, and B, she's a flawed, human being. And the work that we're doing is just, it doesn't conform to this, Zen full yoga siddha guru image that they think is the pinnacle of spirituality. That's what I think.
Well, I've known that forever. I've had people come to me and they're so relieved of the truth I give them, and then they struggle with this package, the voice, the imperfection. My tits aren't perky enough, as like walking through the mist with a unicorn and long hair. So, sorry about that, people, but it's almost like the adepts laugh their ass off because it's right in front of them and they can't see it because of their own ego wants perfection. And the very truth of the matter is perfection does not exist in the physical world. So
Right. And this conversation is actually getting to the heart of the core message in the private session, and that is that there's no end to spirituality, right? So if you think that some siddha guru who's sitting on some ashram is at the end of their spiritual journey. It's just not true. So there is no end. And the other thing is that it's messy. It is messy because, as aware as you might be in your spiritual path, at the end of the day, you still have a physical existence and it's messy. And so, what you and we represent the messy end of the spiritual spectrum.
Yes, and energy. I see people who have a profound spiritual experience akin to an awakening, and it still isn't the whole package. There's always more of truth. So what they do is trying to figure it out is they start teaching it to others, and then inadvertently they get caught up in their own bullshit as they're learning in real time, and they inadvertently lead people off their own path, which is a problem because then karmically they have to atone for all those they lead off the path.
Hmm. There's a whole series of chapters that we wrote related to this topic in the book, Igniting Universal Empowerment. It's a good book. Google it, and you can buy it. And if you're interested, even jump onto the Genuine Healing website and send me or send us a contact message that you're interested in, and I'll find a way to get you a copy. But yes, we lay out in that book a whole bunch of understandings about the spiritual journey, and a lot of people are just misled, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say. Sometimes the truth is just, it's hard to hear, but it is the truth.
Well, the work we're doing is actually stripping off the illusion to the false narrative a lot. So it's making it easier for people to find truth, which is great because more people are waking up. But then their propensity to turn around and try to lead the masses is unwarranted because they're not there yet. They haven't done all the work they need to do yet.
Absolutely. There was a profound moment specific to this particular client where you helped her understand some really deep core issues around a friend of hers. We won't get into that, but take a look at the private session towards the back end. There's some really profound work that you did with the client, helping her and connect with the idea of being the possibility of her being a mother where she thought it wasn't a possibility. And there's some really deep healing going on. But let's leave that to the individual to actually watch. There's nothing that we can say about these things that is a substitute for actually watching the session, to be honest.
Except, do you want to mention the disconnect in her between spirituality and wife and mother? She thought she couldn't have it all because she thought if she chose her spirituality, she couldn't be a mother and a wife. And so the beauty of the healing, without giving it away, is to remove all those limitations to freaking having it all, because that's the whole purpose. You can have it all.
All right. So you definitely laid out a whole new chapter potential for this client. Take the opportunity to watch the entire private session.
Yeah.
Jenna, it was good that you and I were back in front of the camera. We've been so busy in the background doing everything else, but we're glad to be back here. Please like, share, subscribe.
I would like to give a call to action to anyone who's out there who's awakening and wants to make their mark on sharing with humanity. I've had the most profound individuals come to me for a private session, not because they felt they needed help in their individual life, but because they wanted to help humanity. And by upgrading their truth with a private session with me, they shared that with all of the viewers, and it's a profound assistance to uplifting humanity. So I challenge those awakening to do that.
100%. If that's part of your mission, please do that. I mean, that's one of the best ways to really be living your spiritual life, is to outflow in the service and upliftment of all of humanity. I mean, in as an elevator summary in 10 seconds, that's what it's about. The rest is all working out how do you actually do that, and in a moment by moment environment. But yes, indeed. Thank you so much,
I
Jen. Sorry.
I guarantee that something here, something in our work brings you to a shortcut to your own struggles, your own intentions. So look for it, it's here.
100%. Look for this particular private session. It's called Being Addicted to the Search. Interesting title. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. Please sit through the whole thing. It is well worth the effort. Thank you, Jen, for being with us and helping us showcase this. Thank you to the listener. Look forward to catching you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now.